Do you carry a deep, persistent resentment that seems to linger for years? Do you find yourself suppressing frustration under heavy responsibility only to have it surface as cold criticism or quiet fury? Perhaps you know someone who is perpetually pessimistic, prone to grudges, or whose anger feels heavy, slow-moving, and difficult to shake. Is your anger characterized by stubborn resistance, pessimism, or a sudden devastating outburst after a long period of silence? If this slow burn, internalized anger resonates with you, then your Vedic chart may point to a challenging Saturn. And understanding its lessons in patience is essential for freedom. So, welcome back. Welcome back to our series, Healing the Inner Fire. We have explored the fiery, the moody, the proud, and the erratic. Today, we confront the planet of structure, discipline, and restriction, Saturn. We're talking about the weight of resentment, the anger born from restriction, heavy burdens, delayed justice, and deep-seated suppression. So let's go ahead and talk about this planetary culprit and its role, which is Saturn, the taskmaster. In Vedic astrology, Saturn, also known as Shani, is a great teacher and a taskmaster. It governs discipline, maturity, hard work, patience, time, and karma. Saturn is inherently restrictive and slow. When it influences anger, it doesn't create a flash fire like Mars. It creates a deep freeze of emotion. When Saturn is afflicted or afflicting sensitive points, it leads to chronic pessimism, rigidity, bitterness, fear, and a tendency of suppressing your feelings until the pressure becomes unbearable. Saturn's anger is slow to build, but devastating when released. It manifests as holding long grudges, cold shouldering others, passive-aggressive criticism, or a sudden, rigid refusal to cooperate, stemming from years of feeling overburdened or ignored. Now let's examine the placements where Saturn's heavy energy fuels this deep-seated anger. Let's talk about Saturn in the first house in your ascendant. This placement burdens the personality with gravity and caution. The individual often struggles with self-doubt and feels limited, leading to a guarded and pessimistic outlook. Anger is heavily suppressed and may manifest as chronic physical tension or a refusal to compromise. Let's talk about Saturn sitting in the fourth house. The fourth house rules your inner peace, your home, and emotional foundations. Saturn here disrupts domestic harmony and restricts emotional comfort. The anger is deeply internalized, often stemming from childhood feelings of neglect or heavy family responsibility, creating a permanent chip on your shoulder. It really hampers your happiness. Let's talk about Saturn in the eighth house. The eighth house rules psychological depths and sudden change. Saturn here can cause chronic, unyielding fear and deeply buried resentment over past injustices. The anger is slow to dissipate and contributes to a feeling of being constantly burdened or victimized. Let's talk about Saturn in the 12th house, another Dushtana house. 12th house rules isolation and the subconscious. Saturn here indicates deep loneliness and the repression of emotional needs. Anger often manifests as deep, cold resentment towards others who seem free, or as a self-sabotaging passivity. Now let's consider the conjunctions that combine frustration with coldness. This is where Saturn sits with other planets in the same house. Let's talk about Saturn-Moon conjunction. It's called Vish Yoga, poisonous combination. This is a signature of chronic mental depression, deep insecurity, and isolation. The mind is constantly restricted by worry and fear, leading to anger that is cold, critical, and expressed as extreme emotional distance. Vish Yoga. Next is Saturn-Mars. aspect or conjunction. This is a volatile mix of restriction and fire. Saturn suppresses Mars's energy, creating immense internal frustration and pressure. The anger builds slowly over time and then erupts as a sudden, highly destructive burst of resentment. Uncontrolled bursts. Let's talk about Saturn's aspect on the 7th house. 7th house is your relationships. This aspect can lead to heavy responsibilities, delays, and a feeling of being restricted by partners, resulting in chronic relationship frustration and resentment. It's very tough. So if your Saturn is sitting in your 1st house or other houses that places the aspect onto your 7th house. Now, Saturn's anger doesn't peak daily. It accumulates and often manifests during its heavy, long-term cycles. Saturn has a Mahadasha of a 19-year period. It's a major period. And then also its sub-periods known as Antardashas. These periods force the native to face reality, responsibility, and delays. If Saturn is afflicted, these periods can bring intense emotional pressure, workload stress, and chronic feelings of being burdened, which feeds the underlying resentment. The most famous transit is Sade Sati, Saturn's 7.5-year transit around the moon. 1 house before the moon, 1 house on the moon, 1 house after. This cycle is notorious for creating mental pressure, emotional coldness, separation, and deep frustration, leading to periods where the heavy, repressed Saturnian anger can become overwhelming. Let's talk about some long-term solutions and remedies. To heal Saturn's deep resentment, the goal is to cultivate acceptance, patience, and selfless service to lighten the karmic burden. You embrace discipline and patience. Saturn responds positively to structure. Commit to a strict daily routine and show up for your responsibilities without complaint. This transforms the energy of restriction into self-mastery. You can do service to the underprivileged. Saturn represents the poor, the elderly, and the working class. So selfless service to those less fortunate is the single most powerful remedy. This directly alleviates your karmic burden. If this resonates with you, you can also do mantra therapy. Om Sham Shanishcharaya Namaha. You can chant that 108 times while you're sitting in meditation. So Saturn demands honesty. Actively work to express difficult emotions maturely and immediately rather than storing them. You can seek counseling if needed to process the past resentments. You should also make some dietary adjustments. Saturn is cool and dry. Consume warm, freshly cooked food. Avoid cold, stale, or processed food, which mirrors Saturn's stagnating quality. You can also donate and make sure you are as ethical as possible when it comes to Saturn. Always ensure ethical conduct and fairness in your professional dealings. As Saturn is the planet of justice, you will get justice either way. You can also embrace detachment. Practice detachment from the results of your actions. Do your duty without obsessing over the outcome. That pleases Saturn, and it reduces internal pressure. You don't have to have the pressure to perform. So what does all of this mean? So the heavy resentment and the challenges caused by an afflicted Saturn placement in your chart is your soul's contract to learn true perseverance and detachment. The lesson is to move from feeling victimized by the time and responsibility and people to realizing that you are the master of your discipline and destiny. This immense Saturn energy, when it's purified, it can grant you incredible longevity, wisdom, humility, and the ability to build lasting success. Your soul is guiding you to transform chronic resentment into profound acceptance and strength. You're here to learn that true freedom is found not by escaping responsibility, but by embracing it with patience and grace. So, here are your assignments to begin lightening your karmic load right now. First, I want to know, tell me in the comments, What is the one small responsibility that you've been procrastinating that you will complete today? And what is the boundary statement you will use to protect your time for resting and also for self-care after you complete that task? Second, let's turn this knowledge into action. Do one good deed of the day. Do it today for someone less fortunate, especially the elderly or working class. Channel that difficult emotional energy into selfless seva, also known as service, to appease the taskmaster. And finally, share this video with as many people as you can who are struggling with chronic pessimism, resentment, or heavy workloads. This message is critical for soul evolution. The more you share, the more you make your chart better. Knowledge is meant to be shared. And that's what I'm doing for you. If you'd like to connect with me to deep dive into your own personal chart, feel free to go to the link in the About section. And join us next time for video number 6 in this series, where we will dive into the most unpredictable and confusing anger, the sudden, sharp, and detached rage that's caused by the shadow planet Ketu. We'll be discussing the anger that comes from emotional severance, deep dissatisfaction, and unconscious frustration. It's a very unique and profound challenge. So hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss it. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe, hit like, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching, and thank yourself for watching.